wanted to start these Common Sense Commentary monthly Facebook Live features to take a deep dive on the research issues that are facing you and upcoming in Colorado. And so hopefully we'll give you a behind-the-scenes look at our ongoing research and the issues facing Colorado and give you a little preview on what's in store. I think everybody knows right now we are headed into 2020 election. We're starting to see the political ads. What you might not know in Colorado is that we have over 10 ballot initiatives on the ballot, which is crazy, right? I mean,
potential at this point, but it's quite a bit.
Do you remember there ever being that many?
And you have to vote on candidates at the same time.
Yeah, it's going to be like a binder delivered to your house. I don't know. So we thought that today for our first Common Sense Commentary, we would kind of take a look at what might be coming up, what voters should be concerned with, what you should know about, because there's a lot of issues that will impact your lives depending if they pass or they fail. So Chris, why don't you kind of tell us what might be important for voters, for Coloradans to look at in the 2020 ballot?
Yeah, well, we're sort of at this interim stage, as you said. It's potential to have 10 ballot measures in front of voters. The signatures for some of the campaigns were turned in just a couple weeks ago. How
does that process work? What do they have to do to get on the ballot?
Yeah, quite a bit. But the entities that are proposing the citizen-led ballot measures turn in a certain number of signatures, or have to have a certain number of signatures that are certified, that qualify as a fixed percent of voters. Do you know the number?
I don't know. It's like they have to do like 200,000. It's a percent of all the last voting block, right?
Yeah, it's around 200,000 is my rough ballpark number as well. And if you can verify that you've collected enough signatures, you get put on the ballot. And like I said, those signatures were turned in just 2 weeks ago now, or maybe last week, for those entities that are sponsoring these measures, and the Secretary of State's office is certifying them piecemeal over the next couple weeks, so that then the Legislative Council, the research body of the legislature, can put together a blue book, the blue book which is sent to voters, that informs voters to a certain extent on the potential impacts of each of these measures. So that we're sort of at this period where we have a pretty good sense of what will be on the ballot. We've known about these issues for several months now, many months now for some, and we've already jump-started our own research to get ahead of the likelihood that most of these do qualify. The ones that we are really going to be paying attention to and will be submitting research on, or releasing research on, are...
And you're going to be submitting to Blue Book, right? I mean, potentially some of our work will be in the Blue Book.
Yeah, the Blue Book itself, as I said, is put together by Legislative Council, and they have a process where they put together a series of drafts, request public comment from anyone, frankly, but we've submitted some comments. We do hope that they will amend or have amended some of the way in which they've looked at these and researched them, and just some additional findings we think that would be helpful for voters. So we're hopeful that that process again will reflect some comments we've made, and I think to some extent already have.
So I interrupted you. You were going to tell those listeners today what are the big issues that Common Sense Institute is going to be paying attention to.
Well, the ones that we've picked up on and will release research on are Initiative 306, which these will all get different names.
To confuse voters even more, they now have initiative number names, and then they'll change.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's many moving parts of this. So what it will show up as a proposition
or an amendment.
Depending on whether it's a constitutional change or a statutory change. But it's been filed as Initiative 306. This proposes an income tax cut for all voters, reduction in
That sounds pretty good in the middle of a recession, potentially, but
Yeah.
We haven't done the modeling on that one yet.
Yeah, this is an across-the-board income tax cut that will impact individuals and the corporate income tax rate. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, it would be effective starting next year.
Wow.
So absolutely. So though it would provide a little bit of tax relief for filers just starting next year. So a pretty quick
Now,
impact on this one.
wasn't there another tax measure that was likely to be on the ballot? What
Yeah.
happened to that?
Yeah, that was, I think you're talking about Initiative 271, which was an initiative that would have proposed raising tax revenue overall. There was some nuance to the initiative that changed rates for different levels of filers.
So progressive income tax.
It would
measure.
have, yeah, it would have been a progressive income tax. So lower rates for those in the lower wage income brackets, and higher rates for those in the higher brackets.
And that did not make it.
But they did not submit signatures at all, or enough signatures, so that will not qualify. That will not be on. It was something we did anticipate. We were trying to get some background on, but that will not show up on the ballot this year. 306. What did I miss?
I think we're good there. What
Okay.
else? What else should people be paying attention
So
for?
306 income tax cut, 283, Initiative 283. This is the potential to establish a paid family and medical leave state-run insurance program. So this would require that somewhere in the ballpark of 1% of all of our pay would go to this newly formed insurance.
So payroll tax.
Payroll tax. That's exactly right. So it'd be a payroll tax funded 50% by employees, 50% by employers. There's a little bit of, some underlying nuance to that in how employers would likely pass most of that on to the employees in the form of lower wages. But that would then establish this insurance fund that anyone that qualifies would be able to draw from for leave related to bonding for a new child, caregiving. But again, this program is, our initial research is leading to sort of indicate that this would be one of the largest paid leave benefit, if not the largest paid leave benefit program in the country in terms of the level of benefits and the potential for higher costs.
So, and I think it's important because I think viewers might have heard paid family leave come up a few times in the last year and a half. It's been attempted at the state legislature level. This is
For 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, for 4 or 5 years now. It's going to the ballot, and it's also kind of a big national issue. A lot of different states are exploring doing this at the state level. Several states have passed it. Common Sense Institute's conducted studies and research on this previously. Why is this issue still kind of hanging out there, and what has previous research shown, and maybe what other states as well?
Yeah, I mean, the motivation from the proponents is squarely focused on the benefits, right? I mean, I think that the benefits of paid leave for companies that offer it, they've crunched the numbers, or they've negotiated with their employees that this is something that benefits their institution, their employees, and they want to offer. We never really argued or discounted the potential benefits related to paid leave, but as this is an insurance type model, you can't discount or discredit the cost side, or as we pointed out in years past and still exists to some extent with this initiative, not just the potential for costs to continue to go up, but the potential for insolvency, and actually running out of money to pay for those benefits.
Right.
So there's two issues.
Becomes
the
an
insolvency.
unfunded liability for the state for employers potentially. To
That's
carry.
right. I mean, there's some questions that remain. I mean, it would either become an unfunded liability. It would have to be or the cost just, as I said, maybe starts at 1% of wages or 1% of payroll, but it's capped at 1.2% of payroll. But our initial modeling suggests that if we had the benefit level, or we saw the use at the same level of one state like Rhode Island that has a benefit program that doesn't have the same level of benefits, actually lower level, if we saw the same level of utilization as, say, Rhode Island, the program would be insolvent because we would hit that cap of where the payroll is currently set. So you would have to theoretically raise that premium above 1.2% of pay. And right now, the estimates at a 0.9% payroll tax are that the program would collect about $1.3 billion in tax revenue. The state collects, the state general fund is just maybe 12 to 14 billion dollars. Income tax currently is 6 to 8 billion. So this is more than a 10% increase in income related taxes. So it's a sizable program that undoubtedly has benefits, but we're trying to understand the potential financial and economic ramifications because there is a substantial cost ultimately as well.
So for those of you that might be just joining us over your lunch hour, welcome to Common Sense Commentary. My name's Kristen. This is Chris Brown, Director of Policy and Research with Common Sense Institute. We're talking about the 2020 ballot issues and how they might impact you. We're just wrapped up talking a little bit about paid family leave. If you do have any questions while we're live, feel free to leave them in the chat underneath the video as well, or you can always email us directly at info@csinstituteco.org. Chris, you bring up a really good point. So the paid family leave program would be $1 billion program, potentially.
More, yeah.
One of the other ballot initiatives that we know will definitely be on the ballot in November is Initiative 295, which it's an interesting one. It speaks to voter approval of any fee-based enterprise moving forward that the state legislature passes. That's over $100 million program. And I think that it's something that's a little bit complex and that Coloradans might not really understand the growth in fee enterprises in the last decade, 2 decades, and especially since Tabor was passed in 1996. So Chris, can you talk a little bit first about what is the initiative? What will it do?
Yeah, as you said, this would ask voters if they want the same ability to vote on future fee increases, similar to the way voters in Colorado vote on tax increases. So, as you said, any proposed new fee that raised over $100 million in the first 5 years of the program, or was projected to raise over $100 million in the first 5 years of this new fee, voters would have a say. And so this would be prospective, not retroactive. So any future fee that hit this threshold would be voted on. So Initiative 295 simply asks the question whether or not voters want. And this is important because you alluded to the growth in fees. A lot of this, or the reason this is a relevant discussion is because since Tabor, the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, was passed in the early 90s, the share of fees as part of state spending have grown to now roughly be 70%
Wow.
of all state revenue are through fee-based revenue. So at the moment, 30%.
What was it originally when Tabor passed? 30%?
A little over 30%. It was, it was. We have this here. We got our notes. We brought some notes
You're
to make
prepared.
sure. I know. I tried.
Great.
You've taught me well. The first year in Tabor, only 46% was exempt. So it's grown from 46% to about 70%
Wow.
that's now exempt. So 30%,
So I
Yeah.
get the percentages, but what does that mean for the average Coloradan? How much were they paying then in fees? Now how much? What does that look like?
Yeah, so right now it's about $2,400 per Coloradan in 2019 dollars. I'm sorry, that's my 1993 number. So in 1993 it was about $2,400 in current dollars, and that has grown to nearly $5,800.
It's almost
as of last
$6,000
year.
now.
Almost $6,000 per Coloradan in fee-based revenue.
So essentially, fee-based revenue, when you look at the overall general fund revenue, has increased 4 times. Is that compared to general fund dollars?
That's right. Yeah. So another way to put that, for every $1 increase in general fund revenue per Coloradan, enterprise fees have gone up $4.22.
What are some examples of these enterprises and fees? I mean, I see you kind of have your list in front of you, and
Yeah.
for those of you who want more information or might want to dive into the details a little bit more, all of this information is available on our website, commonsenseinstituteco.org. I'd encourage you to go there, check us out, but you can actually find really detailed breakdown of all these studies as well.
Yeah. Some of the largest, and I should say that a significant amount of this have been previous general fund expenses that have been moved outside of the general fund and are now Tabor-based exempt enterprises. So it includes state lottery, all college tuition and fees, the unemployment insurance trust fund, fees going to parks and wildlife, correctional institutions. So there's a host of fees. One of the larger, more recent fee was the hospital provider fee that funds the ability, when Medicaid expansion occurred, that funds the Colorado Health Care Affordability and Sustainability, or CHASE. So the hospital provider fee is part of that. So, and prior to this ballot, this 2020 ballot, the paid family leave would have been a fee-based enterprise. There's been other discussions around other potential enterprises. So again, this is perspective around some of the potential new enterprises that have been discussed.
So one question that I know some of our followers, supporters have had, is this retroactive? For instance, can they go back and say, hey, there's these different enterprises that are over 100 million, they need voter approval, or is it all?
Yeah, no, it's not retroactive.
Okay.
So it wouldn't change any existing fees, but if they were proposed to increase by that $100 million threshold over 5 years, then it would hit this threshold.
So hopefully that gives viewers a little snip of what might be coming up on the 2020 ballot. We will be releasing more information, more studies, more research. We've launched a great ballot resource page on our website. Again, can encourage you to go there, commonsenseinstituteco.org. And we have all of this great information on there. As kind of a reminder of who we are and what we do, we're a research institute. Our mission is to deliver the facts on all of these different policy topics to Coloradans to educate and inform. We don't take a position. We don't say vote yes or vote no. We are not advocates. And so hopefully you have found this information that we've gone over today extremely helpful. I know that I learned a little bit more, which is great. Hopefully you all did too. And we will look forward to doing another Common Sense commentary down the road. Before we kind of jump off though, I know that you and the research team have been really looking at the impacts of COVID-19, and I'd be remiss if we didn't mention the impacts of the pandemic on Colorado and jobs and the economy. Real quick before we jump off or take some questions, can you just give listeners a quick snapshot? I know that more jobs information and data was released today, but what does it look like for Colorado? What's happening?
Yeah, I mean, interestingly, Colorado has fared relatively better than other states. Unemployment now is a little below 10%, which is incredible and significantly higher, obviously, than where we were prior to the start of this pandemic, hovering below 4%, closer to 3%. So still an incredible amount of disruption. We're still seeing unemployment insurance, new unemployment insurance benefit claims above 6,000 people per week, which, at the height of the financial crisis, we were never seeing that many people submitting new claims for unemployment insurance. And now we've seen this sustained since the beginning of this. So we're still quite a ways off from returning to where we were from an employment standpoint. Interestingly, the July numbers showed an actual return. We had seen some improvement over the last 2-3 months as it relates to unemployment and labor force participation, but it seemed like in July, labor force participation actually dipped back down. So for whatever reason, we saw some. So we're still seeing an incredible amount of volatility as businesses slowly start to reopen and return, and we see consumers return. But we're still seeing this volatility, which is very hard to sort of explain in full, but it just points to the fact that we still have a long way to go prior to seeing employment and economic activity return to where it was.
And I know, I've spoken a lot recently just on this SHE session that's been dubbed across the U.S. Something that we found that's really interesting is that women actually in Colorado have been disproportionately impacted compared to national averages. And so that will be something that we continue to monitor. Why is Colorado being impacted a lot more than the nation? Nationally, the labor force participation rate for women's decreased by 3%, but in Colorado it's been 8% with our recent data. So eager to see what the numbers say today after we do that analysis. Tune in next week. We're going to be releasing more information as it relates to COVID-19, jobs and the economy. But Chris, thanks for the time today, and we look forward to joining you all again next time.